Everyone, we're going to call the Alpena County Board of Commissioners Finance, Ways and Means Committee meeting for Tuesday, 8 August to order. First item on our agenda is to do roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Here.
Commissioner Osmer.
Here.
Commissioner Lalonde. Here. Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Fournier. Here. Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Francisco.
Here. If you'd all please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we adopt the agenda, are there any additions or modifications to the agenda? Okay, at that, then I will look for a motion to adopt the agenda and a support. I have a motion from Jesse, Commissioner Osmer. I'm sorry, Commissioner LaHaye. I have a little bit of a hearing loss in my right ear, so. But I do have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye, and I think I have support from Commissioner Lalonde or from Commissioner Fournier? From Commissioner Fournier. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is, the agenda is adopted as presented. First item on there, on the agenda, the next item I should say, are bills to pay. I'll look for a motion to pay the bills and support.
I'll make the
I
motion.
have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye to pay the bills. Do I have support? I have support from Commissioner Lalonde. Any discussion on the bills that have been submitted for payment? Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. The next item on our agenda is from the District Court Administrator, Ms. Chrissy Deleka. Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Christy Delecto, the District Court Administrator. Here with me is Sue Latushak, the Chief Probation Officer and Chief Sobriety Court Probation Officer as well. We are here just seeking approval for our Michigan Drug Court Grant Program application. We have submitted that. We submitted that in May of this year, and we're just waiting to hear if that has been accepted. So we're just asking for approval of that today.
Just so that we're clear, this is for FY 2024, and it's in the amount of $151,548.42. Is that correct?
That
We're
is
talking
correct.
Same one? Okay, very good. Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to accept the Michigan Drug Court Grant Program application as presented. Do I have support? I'll support it. I have support from Commissioner Kozlowski. Any discussion or questions?
Question that I have is, so you said you submitted it in May and you're just waiting to hear back from the state then?
That is correct.
Okay.
Anything further, John? Any other questions or discussion? Okay, well, thank you then. I would look for a motion to approve the, I'm sorry, you have the motion and support. We're in discussion already.
I didn't get who supported it.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on that, please.
Commissioner Osmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is Sergeant J.P. Ritter from the Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Sergeant Ritter.
Good morning. I have three items in front of you today. Action item number 3 is the DNR ORV enforcement grant. We originally wrote that grant for $24,836.50. If you happen to review that grant, you'll notice a request for a new ORV trailer in there. That trailer will be removed from this grant once they approve it. They're going to deduct that amount out of there, and I can get to that portion when we get to action item number 5, I think it is. So requesting for approval on this grant right now, knowing that the amount they're going to approve will be minus $10,000.
So then it'll be somewhere in the vicinity of $14,800 and some dollars.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to approve the State of Michigan DNR ORV Law Enforcement Grant Renewal Application for the Sheriff's Office in the amount of approximately $14,800 with no county match, and authorize the chairman or the county administrator to sign all documents as presented. Then this grant review committee has approved it. So I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson. Do I have support? I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. Any further discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lalonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier?
yes,
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes.
Action item number 4 is the Michigan DNR Snowmobile Enforcement Grant for the amount of $9,278. There is a county match of 15% of that. This is just the application process, not the approval amounts. I don't have an exact number of what it's going to be. That is strictly just wages and fuel maintenance.
So we're addressing action item number 4, where we would recommend the approval of the State of Michigan Snowmobile Enforcement Grant Renewal Application for the Sheriff's Office in the amount of $9,278 with an organizational match of, with the organizational match would be $7,886.30 with a county match of $1,391.70. And authorize the chairman and or the county administrator to sign all documents as presented. And this does have grant review committee approval. I'll look for a motion to approve the grant request application.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lalonde. Do I have support? I support from Commissioner LaHaye. Any discussion on that action item number 4?
Does the $1,391.70 have to come from the general fund, or does the sheriff's department have funding that they can?
We put that in our budget at the turn of the year. We will know then what's approved and what we have to pay, so we'll budget for that.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes,
Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde?
yes,
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes. On to action item number 5, Sergeant Ritter.
Action item number 5, as most of you know, and if you don't, I'll give you the short version. Our ORV officer was pulling our trailer down the road and somebody backed out of their driveway and struck the trailer, wiped out the whole side of it, wrecked the trailer. When applying for the ORV enforcement grant, I had talked to the administrator in Lansing. He informed me they had leftover funds from their 22 budget of $5,762 that they'd be willing to give to us towards a new trailer. I am being told that insurance is covering $5,000 also for a total of $10,762. I've obtained bids from a couple different businesses around, and we've elected to go with a bid from Alpena Trim for $9,100 for a new enclosed trailer. We originally picked out a smaller trailer, but then after running dimensions on our equipment, it'd be awful tight in there, so we opted to go with the $9,000 trailer. It's a little bit longer.
And just to make sure we're clarified, we did get confirmation from the insurance company yesterday that the settlement is $5,400.
54, not 5,000.
Correct.
And this is a 16-foot trailer?
This will be a 18-foot trailer.
18-foot. Okay, I see. They're 7.5 by 18. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else on that?
That is it. Just requesting approval to purchase that trailer.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Ritter. So I'm looking for a motion and support to approve the purchase of a new ORV trailer for the sheriff's office to purchase from Alpena Trim in the amount of $9,100 and to create a line item for the ORV equipment budget from the sheriff's office for 2023. And it's for an 18-foot by 7.5-foot trailer.
I make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fournier. I have support from Commissioner Osmer. Any discussion on the purchase of the trailer?
One question that I have is I noticed that with the original trailer request, with the original option that you're going to go with, you had like $617 for lettering, and then with the new one, it's now 800. Why was there a difference in lettering? Still a trailer, 2 feet shouldn't add extra lettering there.
Correct. I was sending that second email out, the 800 from my phone, didn't have my information in front of me.
Oh, okay.
So
It's still
I was guessing.
617, okay.
it'll be right in that ballpark figure, the 617.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner LaLonge,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thanks, Sergeant Ritter.
Thank you for your time.
The next on the agenda is Sheriff Smith.
Yeah, Tom Chesky's gonna speak on behalf.
Very well. Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So we had the opportunity to receive some funding from, or we have the opportunity from the National Criminal History Improvement Program grant, which is NCHIP. And it's facilitated through the Michigan State Police to get a mobile fingerprinting license to participate in the VIP program, which is a vulnerable and impaired persons program to help build a repository. So if these people walk off, we can fingerprint them and identify them, and that would be at no cost for the first year. And then we also have grant money available to us to replace the live scan in the jail that is aging out and about to, it's past the point where it can be serviced for parts. So if anything were to happen to it, we would have to replace it. But right now we have grant money available. That would be, we could plan for the replacement then.
I have a question. So you said for the first year for the mobile fingerprinting, there's no cost. What would it be after the first year?
$495. So if we choose to renew that, that would be something we would have to budget for, but we don't have to renew it.
Yearly?
Yes.
So this 13,568 is just for a grant application, the amount of 13,568. It's to request a grant to be able to purchase the license to operate.
So a license for the mobile fingerprinting, because we already have the reader.
Okay,
And then it would also be to replace the live scan in the jail. So it's two parts.
so there's two actions basically.
Yes.
All covered by the 13,568.
Correct.
Okay.
Make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to approve the grant application as presented. Do I have support?
I'll support it.
A support from Commissioner LaHaye. Any further discussion on the approval of the MSP NCHIP grant application in the amount of $13,568 with no county match, and authorize the chairman of the county administrator to sign all documents? And this is also to replace the current live scan fingerprint machine in the jail and have grant review committee approval. The discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner LaLonge,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Tomaszewski, thank you. Next on the agenda is our airport manager, Steve Smigelski. Sir.
Good morning, everyone. And just to cheer you all up, I'm not here to ask for any money. Again. The first item we have is Mr. Scott Ash, who's an agent of Presque Isle Electric. He approached me last month about putting in 2 electric vehicle charging stations at the airport. The installation, maintenance, everything about these would be completely free to the county. They would put us on their insurance as an also insured, so if anything was to happen, we don't have any worries about it. And again, all the electricity that would be used, they're going to be separately metered by E&G, so there won't be any cost to the county for the electricity either.
Anything else on that?
I think that it's probably just a good thing. The EV stuff appears to be part of the future, which I usually resist to the best of my ability. However, if they were going to put it in for free, I think that it's a great option for the citizens and the passengers who would own such vehicles.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Say I own a such vehicle. I go to the airport, plug my vehicle in, hop on a plane, I'm gone for 2 days. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. No,
So
they're,
I can hold a charging station up for a period of time. If somebody needs it, they can't get it.
well, I brought that up to Mr. Ash, and he's got funds to install, I believe it's 32 of these across the three county area. Once they get a good plan of what's going on, I've asked him that if there are more available, we would like to have more at the airport, simply because of the scenario you brought up. Someone's gonna plug into it, jump onto a plane and not come back for a week, and it'll be tied up.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion and support and a vote for approval to install 2 electric vehicle charging stations at the Alpena County Regional Airport by Presqu'île Electric and Gas at no cost to the county for the installation and maintenance of said charging stations. PIE&G will supply the electricity to the charging stations at no cost to the county, and they will have their own separate meters. I have a motion.
Make a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kozlowski, and do I have support? Support from Commissioner Peterson. Any discussion or further questions? I think we can just do a voice vote on this, since we're not spending any money. So all in favor of approving, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried, and the approval, I guess, Steve, you will coordinate. Good. And the next item, please.
The next item is invocation of exclusive rights at the airport. Over a year ago, it was decided by the Board of Commissioners that we should take over the fueling at the airport. This will allow us to increase revenues. For example, in 2022, using fuel flow fees that we charge to the fixed base operator, we made $16,446 in Jet A sales, and that was on 205,500 gallons of fuel. For 100 low lead fuel, we only made $420. So by taking over the fueling, we can substantially increase these numbers, and with deficit spending looming on the horizon, I think that it's incumbent upon me to try to find every way that I can to get the airport as far out of the general fund as I can. This is part of a larger plan. We're also going to be designing in 2024, 20 nested T hangars for private aircraft. We're going to construct those in 2025. This is going to be using the bipartisan infrastructure law money that we've been allocated. These 20 hangars, we already have 30 letters of intent on file for 20 hangars. This would be an additional $48,000 per year to the airport. So we're doing everything we can to try to reduce our footprint. This is a substantial piece of it. I would like your permission to reach out to the FAA to formally announce to them that on 10 December, when the lease on the fuel farm ends, that we can step in and begin fueling operations.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion and support, followed by a approval vote, excuse me, to begin the process with the FAA for the invocation of exclusive rights for the sale of aviation fuel or any other liquids or gases that may be approved by the FAA. Or will any other entity in the county of other than the county of Alpena provide for these services to the aviation community. Oversight of the fueling operation will be the airport manager and the assistant airport manager of the Alpena County Regional Airport.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lalonde to approve. Do I have support? I have support from Commissioner Kozlowski, and I'd like to do a roll call vote on. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Yes, thank you, sir. Any further discussion or questions?
The only question that I have is, so if, and I don't know anything about this, how this works, but if we didn't do this, then somebody else could come along and then get their own invocation for exclusive rights to do the fueling there, even though they don't have any of the equipment or infrastructure at the airport? Is that?
A little background on that. The FAA, because of our grant assurances, because we take their money to operate the airport, we cannot grant exclusive rights to any organization. Currently, Huron Aviation Services is providing fuel at the airport, but in no way can we grant them exclusive rights. According to the federal regulation, the only people that can have exclusive rights are the owner of the airport. So since Alpena County is the owner of the airport, plus we own the fuel farm, we will be using our own resources to conduct the fueling.
So when aviation, what is it, aviation, no other
Aviation?
Air and aviation, we allowed them to sell the fuel because we had the rights.
They were, if I'm understanding the question properly, they were selling fuel as a fixed base operator for the county, and we were charging them a fuel flowage fee
Okay.
every gallon. This way here, we would be purchasing our own fuel, we would be making our own decisions about pricing. We could set our own profit limit.
Well, and one of the kind, I guess where I'm going with that is, so we must have had, I would assume, the exclusive rights previously, because if nobody else could come in because we're the owner, is this the first time that we've requested this exclusive rights for fueling?
It is. Before, the fuel farm didn't belong to the county. It was built by Northern Aviation, as I recall, was the company. They built it back in the mid-90s, and they had a 25-year lease on the property. So at the end of the 25-year lease, the FAA demands that anything that's built on airport property has to revert to the airport as its own property. So when that 25-year term expired, the fuel farm became the property of Alpena County.
So that's the same thing within the hangars as well.
Yes, sir.
So when you build a hangar in 20 years or whatever, we get the hangar back and now we can lease it.
Yes. And the 25 years is to allow them time to depreciate their investment to a 0 point so that they're not out any money.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Action item number 8. If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
If you want to end this on a high note, we're going through the process right now of determining what changes need to be made at the security level out at the airport. SkyWest and Delta have approached us with bringing dual-class aircraft in. So we would now be getting 70-plus seater aircraft. They would have first class and your normal class as well. So we're stepping up.
Yeah, we are.
Steve, have they started the logging yet?
No, the logging, we were going to begin that project after Northern Strike ends.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Julie Jackson, the Crime Victim Rights Coordinator. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, and also to continue your joy, I'm not asking the county for any money either. I am seeking approval for our Navigator Pilot Program grant in the amount of $60,000. So, looking for approval.
So that's action item number 9.
Number 9.
Okay, we're looking for approval of the 2024 Crime Victim Rights Navigator Pilot Program Grant Renewal Application during the fiscal year of 1 October 23 through 30 September 24. From the Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $60,000 with no county match, and to authorize the chairman and the county administrator to sign all documents as presented. This grant has review committee approval. So looking for a motion and support.
I'll make that
I
motion.
have a motion from Commissioner Fournier, support.
I'll support.
I have support from Commissioner Lone. Any discussion or questions on the action item number 9? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
All right, number 10 is for the Crime Victim Rights Grant 2024. In the amount of $79,905, no county match. That is for our program.
Okay. So action item 10 is the approval for the 2024 Crime Victim Rights Grant Renewal Application in the federal fiscal year, October 23 to September 30, September 24, from Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $79,905 with no county match, and to authorize the chair and the county administrator to sign all documents. And this also has grant review committee approval. Looking for a motion and support.
Make a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Malone, and I think I had support from Commissioner LaHaye. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thank you very much. And now, Ms. Henry, please come on up. You're next on the agenda. Good morning.
Northern Lights Arena would like to apply for a grant from the Michigan Department of Labor and Economics for $300,000 on behalf of the county for a women's locker room at Northern Lights Arena.
Okay, so what we're looking for then is approval for Northern Lights Arena to apply for a grant with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity in the amount of $300,000 for the purpose of building a women's locker room at Northern Lights Arena with no county match, and to authorize the chair and the administrator to sign all documents. This has been approved by the Grant Review Committee. Looking for a motion and support.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson. Do I have support?
I'll support it.
I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. Any discussion or questions?
Jessica, where's that locker room going to be located?
So if you're on the backside of the rink, the cooling towers, we have a little cutout. And that's where it'll go next to the garage door, basically on the backside of rink 1. And then there is an emergency exit right there that when I spoke with Jeremy yesterday, we would just move that emergency exit door to the other side of the garage. And then that door would probably become the door to the hallway leading into that locker room.
It's my understanding when they do a women's locker room, it's all separate showers. That's probably why the cost is.
Yes, yep.
What is the total cost of the project?
We're looking at $300,000
Well, the bid, I thought it was like 303 or something like
for
that.
them.
303, 134.
And when I talked with, because we went through Matt Liskey Construction on that bid, he just did it as if he was doing like the showers, like the whole thing. And with Jeremy and Dave's background, that they would do like the showers and all that. So we would be able to take off some of the installation of the like showers itself.
So is this going to modify the existing structure of the Northern Lights Arena then?
Yes, yep, because we would be adding
We're adding
to
on.
the building.
Adding onto the building?
Yep.
Okay.
How many proposals did you actually receive? It said, in the grant, it said the RFP went out, I can't remember, is it like in May or beginning of May or something like that?
Yeah, so the grant was not brought to my attention until July. So then when we started to go through the process and then we found out that we needed a bid, which would make sense, we just went through Matt Liskey. And he also talked with a couple other builders in the area. And that's where he got it, because Matt doesn't do a lot of commercial building. And then just with the relationship of him being a sponsor at Northern Lights Arena and the amount that he does for the rink, we just went through him for the bid.
Well, that was my other question too, was because his construction company and his, I guess, relationship with the Northern Lights Arena and being, I think he's a member of MPACT, or is it MPACT?
Yeah, the nonprofit for,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep. Could that be construed as any conflict of interest?
With the amount that MPACT does for us, as we just use them as the fundraising group, I don't see it being a conflict of interest. I can see where you would come with that concern.
Yeah.
But as they just are the nonprofit, they don't have a say in really the operational side of Northern Lights Arena anymore. I wouldn't say it would be a conflict of interest.
And just to be clear, I mean, and I understand that you needed a bid for this grant application,
Yes.
but 300,000 is well above the limit on the county purchasing and procurement policy, such that you would need to bid this out when you're ready to start construction.
Okay.
So this is essentially an estimate, a good estimated cost for your project that I understand you needed for your grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions or further discussion for Ms. Henry? Okay, I'll look for again, a motion and support. Oh,
Got that.
we already got that. You're all set, Carrie?
Yeah, we just need to vote.
Just need to vote. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier? Commissioner Kozlowski?
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye?
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer?
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Henry. Next on the agenda is Mr. Mahler and Ms. Gentry, Economic Development and the DDA Director.
Start, yeah, start even though my name was first.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we were able to attend the county's Economic Development Committee back in July, and we shared some feedback from City Council. Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Johnson was in attendance, and she's here again today as well, just about feedback on the services agreement that the county approved for the DDA with the expansion. So some of the pieces of feedback from the city were that they needed a longer-term commitment in order to move forward with the boundary expansion. Since if the city approved it, they would be essentially contributing funds for 30 years in the form of a tax capture versus 5 years from what the county had approved. So I will turn it to Cindy in just a minute. If you want to say anything, you don't have to. But I just wanted to share that feedback. And then I also included in my packet just a summary of some of the projects the DEA has been working on recently over the summer and a proposed interlocal agreement that could be another form of support for the boundary expansion that would allow the city to move forward with it. So with an interlocal agreement, I included a draft of what that would look like that we're hoping you will consider. It would have a 30-year buy-in, and at the end of this, Mike will also go over how we came up with the table of proposed financial contribution. I do want to point out that this is not a tax capture, so as property values increase in this new district, the county on all of its millages would be collecting that increase. So that is the one thing that is not a tax capture, and you would still be collecting the increase. So just over the last, few months, just a snapshot of our current district, we've secured over $1 million in grants. There's an additional $6 million pending that Mike's been working on, and these are really tied to the DDA district. So there's very real implications with this expansion of where funding can go and where projects can happen. We've seen a lot of business support for this expansion. Players, Old Polish Corner, Clem's, Allegra, HPC, Wolverine State, Eric Peterson, who owns the Old Big Boy, McInerney Dealership, Smigelski Kibasa, Edward Jones, Frank's Key and Lock, Dairy Queen, Star Staffing. So it's not just, us that want to see this happen. It's these business and property owners that want to invest and want to see these districts grow and they realize the opportunity that the DDA can provide, both with grant funding, but also with the financing projects that we do as well. So I will turn it, I have a representative from that area, Nick Monty, who will share a few words, and then Cindy, if you want to make any comments as well from the city's perspective.
This is not public comment. If you could just state your name for the record.
Okay, Nick Monti, CEO of Wolverine State Credit Union.
Okay, thanks.
We currently have an office at 417 West Chisholm, which is right just outside of the current boundary of the DDA. We strongly support the expansion, especially down this Chisholm Street Avenue, so that we can include, we own a number of properties that we're looking at eventually developing into a new office. In addition to that, we have partnered with a number of our business owners downtown in the current DDA to help them finance loans to match grants they've used to improve their property. It's hard to argue against the economic impact that the DDA has had on Alpena County, and we strongly encourage you to support this expansion.
Okay.
Yes?
Thank you, sir. No?
All right.
Thank you.
I won't go over anything that everyone already said because, and you have my comments from last meeting. I would just encourage everyone to look at this. It's economic development raises the tax base. That's the way we all operate outside of, fund sharing through the state. That's how we bring in funds. And if you raise the tax base by these properties being improved and sold and encourage development, it brings income to the entire county, not just the city. So I ask that you look at it from that perspective, and please vote for the exclusion.
Cindy? I know you're only one voice in the city council, but what is the feeling on the city council if this is approved by the county?
If it would be, I think so. I think if we can come to this agreement that you have before you, I think that the city council, and I'm only one voice.
Yeah.
I would vote for this, to make this happen. It opens up an opportunity for grant funding, for businesses, those empty properties that are sitting there stagnant, for people to look at them and redevelop them into usable properties, which increase tax base. It just, to me, is common sense. Any other questions?
I'd like to thank Ann for sending me all those materials, catching me up to speed and spending time with me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I had two questions just to make sure. So obviously I was a no early on, and Ann, you can probably answer these if Cindy, you can. There were two items that I had concerns on that were addressed. I don't see them reflected in the agreement. One was an opt-out for the few properties that are mixed zoning that are currently being inhabited and used as actual housing. And the second is, actually, wait, that's the only one right now. Sorry.
And can correct me if I'm wrong, but all of those properties are able to opt out.
They are, okay.
They are. The housing. The people that
Yeah,
use this housing.
yeah, so this isn't in this agreement, but that's something that we presented to council is, so you have the map where the residential parcels are moved along the street.
Okay.
But there's still a handful on Chisholm, and then there's like two on North Second Avenue.
Yeah, I think that's
that Ben
like-
Young owns.
Yeah.
So our thought is that with the millage that would be levied by the city, they could essentially get that redeemed.
Okay.
So that's something that wouldn't be reflected in this, but is something that we shared with council since there were some current concerns from council members about residential parcels having that 1.98 special assessment levied. So they'd be able to get that either refunded or just not levied. That could be
Yeah.
attorney on the best way to approach that.
Okay.
But that is our intention.
And then, Chairman, if I can just.
Yeah, please.
And I understand and I agree, because when it was kind of the annual option for us to opt out, I kind of thought that was a really, really good deal for us. So I can see where you have concerns, but with that being said, I think the difference between the county and the city is the city does have representation on the board, the county does not. And so in essence, if we're paying a fee, we don't have representation on the board, how do we kind of secure those funds, make sure that we can kind of police them in a way? So I understand maybe not doing annual, but perhaps maybe a 5-year. Once every 5 years or 6 years, something where we have something, or allowing the county to do a placement on the board. I know you guys are looking to expand, might be a good opportunity to, kind of give us some skin in the game, I guess. Just a couple thoughts I have. Thank you.
I would be fine with representation on the DDA board if that's allowable. I'm not sure what the bylaws on that say, to get a longer term agreement. It makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, last question, sorry.
No,
I missed this one. If let's say we were to do the 5-year increments, let's say 15 years in, we decide it's just not working for whatever reason, we pull out. I just want to make sure that we're clear on the fact that there is no actual expectations by the DDA for those properties or for that new area. If we were to retract, you would just simply stop activity in those areas, or you have the option to. Correct. Or are you obligated under some sort of law to continue activity?
Right, so what the city would be approving is the 30-year continuation of the district. So that would be in the downtown development and TIF plan. So that would be a 30-year commitment, essentially, both for funding.
I see, because it does overlap. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Right, yeah, which is how we came up with the 30-year proposal in the interlocal agreement, because once the city approves it, it's locked in for that
Got it.
long.
That makes sense. Right.
And there are no other terms that could be approved other than 30?
I mean, the city could, but I don't see why they would.
Okay.
I mean, 30 is the standard for DDAs across the state, and
I
that's.
was wondering if there was a precedence or if there's some kind of standard or unwritten policy or whatever, so.
Yeah, 30, I think, is the max that you can do with one plan, which is what our current district is, just because it is such a long game. As in, talked about at the committee and then also in our comments, it's taken well beyond 30 years for our current district to get where it is.
Okay.
So if I get that right, you want the county to commit for 30 years.
Correct.
I don't think really myself to commit the county for 30 years, and we can't see the future. I just think that 30 years is not good for the county. I mean, we've got a lot of commitments. And to do another at this time, my feeling, I would, no.
So on the agenda today is a discussion of the DDA service agreement. There is no agenda directed or suggested action to approve at this time.
If I may just make a comment to Commissioner Ferner's comment. To grow the tax base takes a long time. It just does. So to commit to 30 years to grow the tax base, to make more money, to encourage people to invest in areas is always positive. Because that's how you get money to make other commitments, to do other things, and the entire county, not just the city, and the entire county. So whatever money this brings in goes into your pocket to make decisions, to do things in the entire county, not just the city. And if you have a stagnant tax base, you can't grow. You can't bring in more funds. So to commit to growing the tax base for 30 years is a good policy. It just is. But I understand your concerns, I do. And you are put here to make good decisions for the entire county. I am part of that. For the citizens, so that you do grow your tax base and you encourage people. So if you look at the part of the city that we are talking about, there's a lot of depressed properties in that area. If we can get people to buy these properties because there's tax funds available and grant dollars to improve them, and it grows the tax base, that's positive. That's a positive outcome for the entire county. Or you can leave them set there for the next 30 years, like they have, and nothing happens. No one's going to come, and I can tell you this because I've been part of the DDA for a long time. The $5,000 we did on the facade grants, so it was one of the biggest investments we ever did to the DDA. We didn't have the money to do that, but we decided to carve out that $5,000 to give to people to improve their facades. It snowballed. There were more properties asking for that facade grant than we could give. It encouraged those business owners to invest more than the $5,000. Most of the time, it was $20,000 to $30,000 they were investing in their properties, which encouraged more people then to. Everyone wants to come to a team that's winning. No one wants to come to a losing team. So it had an effect on the current DDA that you can see it. We can bring that to the other side.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
I'm going to have a mic come up. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Malone, go ahead with the question.
And this actually might be a question for Mike, and I apologize if it's a silly question. So when we're looking at the 30-year increments for the contribution from the county, and as it grows by every 5-year increment, the reason why the amount was growing because the tax capture would be greater because of the improvements in the businesses downtown. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, so, I mean, good lead-in for me, so thank you for that. So you've got in front of you, I believe, a sheet that should look like this. 30 years, it's color coded. I don't know if you have color coding on yours or not. I did, it would make it a lot easier. So a couple of assumptions here. I just want to, explanation I want to share with you. First of all, we proposed initially we assumed a 1.5% appreciation, property appreciation standard through this 30-year period. I was at a meeting when I think the county assessor was there, and he said that number he thought was understated. It's probably closer to 2 or 2.5. So for this purpose here, we use 2%, not the 1.5 that we had put forward last time we brought this to your attention. And so, at 2%, what I was attempting to do here was mimic as best we can something that approximates the operating millage only. If we were doing a tax capture, which we're not doing here, but just focusing on the operating millage and not the special millages, okay? So what I did here is if you look at the first 5, So stepping back for one moment. So the base valuation of this expanded boundary is $6.9 million. Okay, almost $7 million. So in year one, that would generate, based on the operating millage only, $668 of additional. If we were collecting a tip, it'd be worth $668. Year two, $1349. Year three, $2,043. Year four, $2,752. And year five, $3475. If you aggregate the average of those 5 years, it comes out to $2,057. Again, if we were so because we're not capturing the tax, we said that let's put together a contract where the county would pay $2,500 a year for the first 5-year segment, which is slightly more than the 5-year average, $2,057. The next 5 years, years 6 through 10, you can see that under a TIF for the operating millage only, the average would be $5,746. That's what we would have captured on average for that 5-year period. So we would propose that we amend, or the contract would state that the rate moves to $5,000 for DDA support and $2,500. And following through, and the next 3-year or 5-year cycle, it's $9,819 on average. So we propose $10,000. Years 16 through 20, the average is 14.3, so we propose 15. Years 21 through 25, 19.2, we propose 20. And then the last 5 years under this proposal, the average was 24,751, we proposed 22.5. So if you aggregate what we were proposing here, it's $375,000 over 30 years compared to a TIF of about $380,000. So it's a slightly less money to the county than what the operating millage capture would have represented if you assume 2% interest across the base values of these properties in this expanded boundary. Okay. Next point I just want to make is that the county retains the TIF, the base TIF, and the operating millages under this scenario. So for the $6.9 million, it generates for the county about $75,000 of tax collected. That still stays with the county. That does not inure to the DDA at all. So you're still maintaining that base level of taxability in the county coffers. If you aggregate then and compare this, so if the county were to agree to what we're proposing here, you would be contributing $375,000, which is 19.4%. The city of Alpena is putting in $1,355,000, which is 70.3%, and our college is putting in 10%. So you can see relative to the city's in for $1.3 million, because 70% of this of the TIF generated through this 30-year period. So in terms of contribution, this is significant that they're asking the county to make it 19%. But understand Cindy's point earlier here. I mean, the city is in a large way here. They are definitely committed to the financial. And this $1.3 million would benefit these businesses in this expanded boundary district that currently see no benefit today. And it is interesting. Just about every action item I've heard here today, just about every single one of them had to do with a grant. And those grants aren't available today unless we do this for these property owners here. And I just think about the big boy right now, which I know is a restaurant. You know, who knows what it will be 5 years from now. It may still be a restaurant. Or it could be a condo project on the river right across from the hospital, 4 stories. We don't know. It's a pretty nice piece of property on the waterfront right across the street from the hospital and Sportsman's Island. And so I say to myself, again, not knowing, I just know it's much more likely to happen. Someone's going to develop that or fix that property up if there's availability of grant funds to help it. Because right now it's sat empty for what, 5 or 6 years? I'd hazard to say that for the next 5 or 6, nothing's going to happen there unless we do something like this and if that were to happen, the county would benefit because you'd capture those taxes on that new property and on that improvement. So, does everybody understand my math here and how I arrived at this? Does it make sense? Focusing on the operating portion of the county millage only here. That was kind of the basis for this talk piece. I'd be glad to entertain questions.
I like the color. When we looked at this before, I was just like,
I get it. I said I'd.
My head hurt. Right.
They try to make it pretty user-friendly and easy to follow.
Can
my explanation help that?
It was very helpful. Can someone explain to me, just maybe in a little more detail, why that it jumped right to 30 years instead, like a 20-year wasn't entertained. Maybe you could touch on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, why we're proposing a 30-year commitment because that's what the city would approve.
Okay.
So that was feedback from city council was, we're in for 30 years with 79% of 70% of the funding.
Yep.
If the county enters something that's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, then those remaining 10 years, the city's on the line for it. So I think it was like the spirit of we're all in playing by the same time period for the duration of this.
Yes. All right. So if, again, I mean, the two things I would like to see is just some sort of option for us to get out. Maybe not annually. I understand that maybe was a little bit too much, but 5, 6, 10 years, just something. And then if we could get a seat on the board, just so there's some sort of representation from the county as well, I think that'd be good. But with that being said, I think the city council's next meeting's on the 21st. Our next one's on the 22nd. I know we've been going back and forth on this for a while. So Chairman, I would make a motion that we table this, let city council go back with the input that we gave them today, and maybe put this on for a vote for the 22nd.
So there's nothing to table because on our agenda today is a service agreement discussion. We're not.
Revise it, take away the word table and everything else.
Understand. Okay. So what you're recommending is that not later than our, I guess whenever it's convenient, that we be presented at a future full board meeting to consider the approval of a service agreement. And you had indicated two things. One, that the County Board of Commissioners had representation on the DDA board, correct?
Correct.
That was one. And then the second was just an opt-out statement within that agreement is what you're recommending, correct?
And any other input they took away from our questions and our input. Obviously, I don't speak for the board, but just.
But that was your recommendation?
Correct.
Okay. Just to kind of summarize.
And the current DDA, is this going to be an extension of the current DDA downtown 30 years? Or is it going to be 30 years is for the blue?
It is an extension of the
And
current
it's been a red, so everything is going to be 30 years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, our current district is in play till 2035.
Okay, so you're just going to
Roll it in.
roll it in. Okay.
Commissioner Osmer, can I just make a comment on opt-out? Because I think for city council, for me, and I'm only one person, it would be a non-starter. Because it's about the commitment for 30 years to develop this section of the city. And it takes, I hate to say how long I've been on the DDA, but it's been over 25 years. So I started on the DDA when nothing was happening downtown. It takes a long time for this stuff to happen, but it does happen. And without the long-term commitment from the commissioners, I'm not sure it's going to happen. Because we all need to hang together. I'm telling you, it's a positive thing. And if you watch the current DDA grow, that's what can happen. But it takes a while to get it there.
So I have a question.
Properties in the extension that need redeveloped.
And so to be clear,
I have a question over from Commissioner Kozlowski. Hang on just a second.
And the only, because I've heard this a couple times now, non-starter or whatever. So if the county were not to get into this, what would happen with the DDA?
I think that the DDA would exist as it currently is.
It would what?
Exist as it currently is. We would not expand, which would be a loss for grant dollars to the property owners who truly want this. I mean, I wouldn't be here advocating for this if they didn't, but they do. And I think it's a benefit to the city, to the county, to start redeveloping these properties, selling them, getting them in new hands and make things happen.
Commissioner Osmer, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just two things. One, and I'm not necessarily saying the opt-out feature would make or break my vote, but I just want you to take it back to city council, maybe have that discussion.
Okay.
And kind of that as concern. And again, we understand I understand personally the annual, every just something, 15,
Okay.
some sort of marker.
And what would, can I just ask so that when we have the discussion at city council, exactly what we're discussing? So in the opt-out, what, an example of why? Why would the commissioners opt out in 10 years? Like, what would trigger that?
I have a question. I don't think it's being fair today to the county. The city has a reputation, they're representing them. We have none. And you're still pushing the city this and the city that. I think that we ought to shut it down for today, give the county time to talk.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
So, we're not getting any fair representation.
There is no vote today on this.
No, and I think that we're getting nowhere because Cindy's insisting that, and, no, I think we ought to just.
I have one last question.
I'm sorry, she had a question for me and I never got to answer it.
Yep, you're right.
Just real quick. So the two things that come to mind for the opt-out, one is just, it is a very long time. And I know how frustrating it was coming into a board and having things kind of tied, tied around my neck and saying this is where you have to carry it for the next 10 years or 5 years or a year. So again, it just kind of gives it fairness to future boards to maybe be able to look at it. And then two, language could certainly, I think, be put in there saying, what the expectations are if they're not met, whatever basis. But I mean, from what you guys are saying, that's probably not going to happen. We're going to see growth, we're going to see new developments, and there's going to be great PowerPoint presentations and things into future boards proving that this money is well spent. So I didn't mean to necessarily insinuate that there was something clear cut or black and white, but just
want to clarify so what we were discussing.
So we have Commissioner Kozlowski has another question.
So I'm just looking at the amounts that you'd be collecting in, and I guess my question is, where does that money go? Because obviously that money is not going in to be distributed to those businesses. Is that more directed at salaries then, or is that?
I'll speak, probably gonna have to have some staff to handle a bigger district, but clearly it could go on the facade grants. We pool these funds, we build some balances, and we put together, economic development. We have a committee that has, for instance, like business expansion and relocation dollars available. So when we had the mall kind of flailing, we encourage business owners of the mall to bring their businesses downtown. And we actually underwrote part of the rent, underwrote part of the improvements that they made to the properties that they were occupying. Facade grants, again, more money for just helping to incentivize property owners in the new district to use some of these funds we're collecting to help you, paint not paint, but, improve your building, the exterior of your building and the appearance of the building. And so certainly some of the money, I'd say the majority of the money, Frank, would go to that kind of stuff. Frank, it's not going to go to, I'm not going to double or triple the number of people. There right now there's one person in the DDA. Probably going to have some level of support. So some of this would go to that. But again, the city's putting in a considerable amount of money into the DDA budget to help facilitate, again, bringing on somebody to help focus on the expanded boundary properties.
And each year, just a brief comment, since we're under the city budget. So every year, what are we devoting to facade grants? What are we putting to public art? What are we putting towards our own grant programs? What are beautification projects? What are projects? And we capital improve. We have a capital improvement plan too for every 10 years. So in my mind, $2,500, that would go straight into a facade grant program or things like that. But that would be a discussion with the board when we go to budget it of what those improvements are.
And I, for one, as the DDA chair, have no issue with having county representation on DDA board. To me, it makes good sense, frankly, to partner in this. We have a meeting today to talk about adding board members. And so I think this is something that we'll share with the full board today at our meeting. I do think it should have a voice in what's happening. It should have some level of engagement that in alignment with the process. So I think that's good.
It'd be nice if the county had the money that this too, but we don't have it. I'm gonna press the people of the county for more money.
So in the future, I assume that there will be a vote on the service agreement to participate as a part of the Downtown Development Authority, but that's not going to be done at this time today. Okay? Okay, could you restate the motion again, please?
Sure. The motion is that we give city council time to go back and discuss this. And if it works, come back, we put this up for discussion and a possible vote on the 22nd during full board.
I'll support that.
Okay, so I have a motion to give the city opportunity, the city council to go back and resubmit a proposal for an inter-service agreement or in the local agreement to participate in the the DDA boundary expansion, and preferably by our next meeting on the 22nd of this month. And I have support from Commissioner Peterson. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
No.
But hearing the majority to approve, the motion is carried, and we will move forward to a future vote on this particular topic. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
And next topic on our agenda is our county treasurer, Kim Ludlow, but I see Cindy is here to represent the treasurer's office. Is that correct?
Just to take notes, but her reports were attached.
That week's, or is this presented?
I have a motion to accept the treasurer's reports as presented for the month of July. Do I have support?
That's fine.
So I have support from Commissioner Osmer. Correction, I have the motion from Commissioner Osmer. I have support from Commissioner Fournier. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is our county administrator, Mary Catherine.
Yes, so commissioners, this is to approve a settlement for the pooled use vehicle, the joint use vehicle that we had that was involved in the accident a couple of months ago with one of our equalization employees. Originally, the insurance company thought that they would fix that vehicle. Then they went back and looked at it again and decided that no, they would total that out. We were offered a settlement from the insurance company of $56,632.62. There is a lien on that vehicle, which is what we owe Enterprise on the balance of the lease of $41,673.77. So on this one, we came out very nicely ahead, which is means the Enterprise program is working the way it should. So I would like approval to accept the settlement of the $56,632.62 and pay out Enterprise the $41,673.77.
So look for a motion and support.
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Commissioner LaHaye. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support for Commissioner Lone on the accepting the settlement checks and the payment as indicated by our county administrator. Discussion?
Where does the difference go?
That's what I was going to ask.
Into the general fund.
Okay.
And do we need to purchase another vehicle?
We will be ordering a replacement vehicle that will then go on to that lease program.
Okay.
What is that vehicle that you have over there now? Is that just a loaner for?
It's actually one of the decommissioned vehicles from the sheriff's department that we held off on giving to Enterprise to sell back for us, so that we would have a vehicle to use while.
What are these vehicles? Do we need this vehicle? Do we not have enough right now, or?
That's kind of where I had a couple comments on this as well. You know, the 14,000, 15,000 that we received as a balance, you know, it is additional money, but if you, and I don't know how many months we were paying on the other one. And if we were paying when the vehicle was out of service, but at $1,000 a month with that vehicle that's sitting over at the parking lot of the court building, I'm thinking, my thought is that, you know, that's a perfect vehicle for what they use, because that vehicle isn't something that's used every single day. And when we're paying $1,000 a month, that's a pretty significant amount to pay for a vehicle that gets used very seldomly.
I understand that. I will say the vehicle right now that is over there is a very high mileage vehicle, right? It came off the sheriff's department duty. It has, I honestly don't know how many miles it has at the moment, but it's got to be approaching 200,000. And at that point, you start to get to the point where vehicles break down and have repair bills. At the moment, we're not paying anything for it. It's great. It's a free vehicle that we're able to use. The concern as when we entered into the enterprise program is that when you start getting repair bills, I mean, I just got an estimate for a truck out at the fairgrounds, just $2,000 to repair a vehicle that already has very little value to it. So it's a balancing of what's the value of the vehicle, what are the potential repair bills that we might see coming up. And I will say, I 100% believe that our employee walked away from the accident that he did because he was in a new vehicle that had all of the upgraded and modern safety equipment in it.
And our action for today is just to approve accepting the money and paying the lien off for that other vehicle, right? We can discuss purchasing and leasing of vehicles when, as an agenda item. That's, because I'd like to keep this moving on a little bit if we could, instead of debating another topic. So I have a motion and support. If there's any discussion on accepting the money for the insurance payment and paying off the lien, please, let's continue that. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. The next item on our agenda is an information item regarding marijuana operation and oversight grants. And
Just to receive and
just to receive and file. Okay, thank you. I look for a motion to receive and file on this information item from marijuana oversight grants. I have a motion from Commissioner Fournier. Do I have support?
I'll support it.
I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. Roll call, please. Correction, discussion on the oversight grant as provided. Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. The next item on our agenda is for, from the Commissioner's Office, our budget items, correction, budget adjustments. Action item number 14 specifically. And I believe there are two.
I believe there's actually just one
One, I-
adjustment coming from the prosecutor's office for an adjustment on I believe it's on the,
Authorization.
on the CRB Navigator budget line item to move some money. This needs board approval because we're moving money out of HR or payroll numbers.
Okay. So just for clarification, it's the, I'm looking at two documents. It's the one for $438.21. Is that?
No, it's 6,000.
No.
Okay, let me get to the right. Oh,
Action item number 14.
okay, thank you very much. Yep, wrong page. So what we're looking for is approval to decrease the 2023 budgeted line item of 101,276.7-718.000 hospitalization by $6,000 and to increase the 2023 budgeted line item of 101,276.727.003 office supply and computers by $6,000 to replace the current cell phone, replace the current laptop, and purchase monitors for the prosecutor's office as presented. Look for a motion and
Make that
support.
motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson. Do I have support?
I'll support it.
I have support from Commissioner LaHaye. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. That concludes all the items on our finance committee meeting. I look for a motion to rise and report and close this to be able to move to the next. I have a motion from Commissioner Osmer to conclude finance committee and move to the next item, our next event. And I have support from Commissioner Fournier. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Finance Committee meeting is closed.
Yes, sir. Okay. Action item number 15, motion to approve all recommendations of the Finance Ways and Means Committee as presented. I entertain a motion. Motion by Commissioner Osmer, support.
I'll provide support.
Support by Commissioner Francisco. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Action item number 16, motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes actions as listed above and tying of all reports. I need a motion on that, please.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner LaHaye,
I'll support.
support by Commissioner Malone. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Osmer, Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes. Action item number 17, recommendation to approve and adopt resolution 23-15, imposing a recycling surcharge up to $25 per year per household as presented. I entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 23-15, increasing the surcharge of $25 per household.
Support.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Francisco, support by Commissioner Malone. Discussion.
Just a comment briefly, Chair. You do have some corrections that were caught by Laura Ellery Summers, which I greatly appreciate, it should be Charter Township of Alpena. And then the new interlocal agreements, which were submitted for July of 2023. Obviously, the previous interlocal agreements with all of the townships were 2017. But at the last meeting, they did submit those updated interlocal agreements. So that would be as of 2023. Local units of government within Alpena County have entered into interlocal agreements approving that $25.
So the only correction is to make it a charter township.
The Charter Township of Alpena, yep, and then correct to 2023.
Correct. So noted. So we have a motion. Yes, we have support. Any more discussion?
And just for clarification, all of the townships within the county have approved they have approved to go to $25.
Yes, they all had those discussions and all of those township boards approved the increase.
Okay.
I've kind of stated my concerns in the past about getting buy-in from the other counties before we start increasing ours to the max. While I was reviewing this under Public Act 69 of 2005, one of the things that I saw was, which would be the next thing, an additional or an increase to the surcharge potentially, which would have to go to the voters, of collecting $4 a month or $50 a year. And at some point I would see that happening. I continue to say that I feel like if this is a regional recycling, we need to get the buy-in from the other counties within our surrounding counties. I just feel like when we did that 2017, 18, whenever it was, when we went up to the $20. And then the other thing, and I didn't put a note here, but I don't know if this agreement allows for the opt-out for the veterans and the poverty exemption.
So this particular resolution that you have in front of you does not. And the reason it does not is because it was brought up at last meeting when this was discussed, that those exemptions are, because those are fees, it's not a tax. And so we're technically, because with the way this is drafted with the recycling surcharge, the surcharge is a fee, it's not a tax. And so there wouldn't be the same ability to exempt somebody from the tax in the way that you could from property taxes or other kinds of things with poverty exemptions and veterans exemptions. If you guys want me to put it back in, I certainly can, but that was what was brought up at the last meeting. And so that was the way that this draft was created.
I believe they deserve a break. Anybody that puts their life on the line for us, they deserve more than that.
So that's when it's drawn in, is when the taxes are done?
Yes, it's put on one of the tax bills and it's just $25 for the whole year. That's it. You pay it once, you're done.
I think it's usually a December tax bill.
It's usually.
Thank you for the clarification.
And, you know, I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Kozlowski, and I think it was brought up at the last meeting when there was a presentation from RRS that there has been reach out to our neighboring counties. And at this point, we do have commitment from at least one of our neighbors to start bringing their materials to us as soon as we have the new facility up and operational. They've actually already written grants to get bins so that they can start putting out their own bins and collect materials that will then be brought to us. And I believe we are looking at co-planning under the materials management plan with a couple of our neighbors that will also address joint recycling and regional recycling, that they will have commitments to join in with us.
And as a member of the NMMA, as I understand is that this is for the operating, to maintain and sustain current operating costs. And that's why it's certainly when the new MRF is operational in 2025, obviously those operational costs will transfer over, but this is needed now and not when the new MRF is being, is completed and operated. That's what the, Mr. Mishley and the authority, the NMMA, the authority board has indicated that they need the extra $5 for current operating costs.
And this agreement, I think Mary Catherine was approved, as I say, was approved through all the townships. So if we tried to deviate from it, we'd have to go back to the townships, do it all over
I
again.
know I had attended, and I may have already mentioned this, but I did attend a meeting for my township, and when I brought up this increase, they had told me, they're like, we already approved it, like, you know, that this is a done deal, so it doesn't matter what I do, because they've already approved it. And I had to clarify and let them know that it's not actually completed until the county commissioners approve it.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion?
I did just one thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I do, I mean, being a veteran myself, and I appreciate Commissioner Furnier's comments, the exemption is for those that are deemed by the VA as 100% disabled. I don't know how much of the population, I should know this, but I don't, is affected by that. And because it's not a tax, Mary Catherine is correct. And I do appreciate everyone's thoughts on that as well. But as it's stated, this is where we're at now, so.
And as I understand it, if they're 100% disabled, qualified through the veterans, they actually don't pay taxes. So there would not be the opportunity to draw that surcharge from them. So it wouldn't be there. So the good part is that would be like a sidestep, that the veterans would be protected if they were 100% considered disabled through the VA.
Because that said, they would pay the $25.
If they're 100% considered 100% disabled, they actually don't pay taxes.
But this is not a tax. This is a fee. It's a
No,
surcharge.
I know that, but that's when they're collecting the fee, is through the
It
taxes.
goes on the tax bill, so that might be a technical question then as to how
Right.
those individuals.
But they don't receive a tax bill at all.
Get a tax bill with the $25 surcharge on it.
Yes.
Oh,
They get a tax
okay,
bill that
that's
says
what-
zero
Tax.
but the
But then the $25
right.
surcharge. Okay, that was where I was like, well, I'm like, if that's not the opportunity presented, then they'd be okay.
Because it would show, as Cindy said, it shows exempt on their tax bill.
But then a $25 surcharge.
$25 surcharge would be applied.
And it's not a fee, it's a fee.
It's a
not
fee,
a tax.
not a tax. Right.
So it's not like your property taxes haven't been paid if you don't pay the fee.
They will roll delinquent though.
Yeah. The fee will hold delinquent.
Yes.
Yeah.
More? Not Carrie?
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier.
No.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
No,
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Osmer.
No.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mary Captain, Land Bank.
So the land bank was approved. Thank you very much for all of that. It was filed with the state of Michigan. We now have 30 days from that filing to make appointments to the land bank authority. And though that appointment authority does rest with the Board of Commissioners, statutorily, you are required to appoint the treasurer of the county of Alpena. So Kim Ludlow would be one of the appointments. Another appointment slot is taken by either a city or a township official. And then there are 3 slots after that for open for appointment. They must be residents of the county of Alpena.
So once we get that appointments, and we will form the authority with bylaws, bylaws. And
Right, at their first meeting, they would then adopt their bylaws and their policies and procedures, which is how they would govern themselves. There is a recommendation from the city manager to appoint Mayor Matt Walagora as the city representative.
What would you said treasurer, city, and 3 other?
Yes, yes.
The random members from the county?
They can be anyone who lives in the county of Alpena. I think the thought when the board was formed, when the interlocal agreement was passed, was that there would be a commissioner who would be appointed and then 2 members from the community. But the appointment power rests with you guys. So you guys can make that decision.
How often, this was a question I was asked yesterday, how often do we think they would meet?
They're required to meet once a year.
Okay.
But they may meet more than that, and they would decide that as part of their bylaws.
Okay.
When they adopt their bylaws.
anything else on that? If not, entertain a motion. We don't. Closed session.
Yes, well, do you want,
Yeah.
do you want to make any appointments today, or do you
No,
want to?
just make recommendations. Anybody's got anything?
Okay, and then we'll
Have
do
it
it full board. Okay.
I know there's a couple people that expressed interest to me, and I haven't heard a commitment from one way or another to interested, so.
Same Commissioner Peterson, the one had expressed interest, but had not committed yet.
Okay, moving to closed session.
Did you want to bring up the issue with?
Yes, can I bring that up? Should we?
Before you go into closed session or after?
Before we go into closed session, especially with the sheriff here. So some constituents had reached out to me about some previous issues that they had last year at the Alpena County Fair with public use of marijuana. And then a little bit of discussion around it. They were concerned with exact protocol steps they should take. How do they address it? How do they handle it? And they just don't, when there's confusion like that, then all of a sudden everybody's kind of, what do we do? What do we do? Obviously with lots of children and families, and we don't want to have something like that. It is a state law. While marijuana use is legal, it is a state law that you are not to smoke it in public areas completely. So technically we are covered under that umbrella of state law. I have spoken with Sheriff Smith about this, that the protocol would be to call the non-emergent 911 line if they see anyone smoking marijuana in public. But also one other thing we had come up with as a solution to this is to have public display during the Alpena County Fair that it is legal to smoke marijuana in public. So the signs are being made and put up. I will actually be touching base this afternoon with Courtney Krentz, just to double check that this has been done. So we do have a protocol in place in that, and then they feel comfortable as well as being informed like what their policy is, because we had taken the ordinance out that specifically spoke to marijuana this year, or was that last year that was taken out?
Well, the ordinance that governs our camping at our county parks. So this would be the one minor caveat as far as our camps are concerned. So when you rent a campsite, that is now yours. And so you could consume on your campsite. But anything off of your campsite is considered to be public property, and you may not consume, and I just want to be careful, it's not just smoke. you may not consume marijuana in a public place. So anything that is not your site that you have rented for the day, that is in the public, is prohibited by state law. And you can post that it's, punishable, I think it's a civil violation, and it's punishable by a fine of up to $100 for your first violation.
You just need to change the policy.
You could change your ordinance.
Dan rents out rooms, you rent it, it's technically a room, but they don't allow smoking cigarettes even in there. So I would assume.
You can.
Okay, I was just.
I definitely think this is, I mean, I know this is a little thing, but this can actually be a big thing, because to be honest, if my children were little and I was at a campsite and right next to me, they were burning down like it was Cheetah's Day, I mean, I would have a huge issue with that. And then I would have a problem with that. So, I mean, I think we need to address this and have some kind of ordinance. If they want to smoke it in their camper or within their tent, I'd have no problem with that. But I think any public use whatsoever, standing beside their camper, standing beside the tent, I think areas such as the Alpena County Fairgrounds, that we have to have an ordinance for that. I think we're leaving ourselves open to issues, because you know what's going to happen next week is there's going to be a million calls that people are standing beside those tents and they're going to be smoking marijuana, and the families beside them that have their camper that they look forward to coming to every year with their kids. So these animals are going to be extremely upset. And we have told them the protocol, and they're going to call that number. And the sheriff's department is already stretched incredibly thin, and they're going to have to send an officer over there with no rights. You know what I mean? So I think this is, I mean, it's unfortunate the fair is in a week, but I think this is definitely something we have to get this resolved.
The Parks and Recreation Board is meeting on Wednesday, so I will bring it up to them if they want to make a modification to the existing ordinance. There are other rules within the ordinance that they can enforce. So if you are infringing upon the peaceful enjoyment of somebody else, then that's a violation of our rules and of our ordinance. And so there are other tools that they can use to enforce that, but I will absolutely bring it up to them for that.
Yep, technically, and correct me if I'm mistaken here, because I could be wrong, but technically, we don't have our Alpena County Fairgrounds under the Parks and Recreation umbrella.
They don't, but our parks ordinance covers them because it's property owned by the county of Alpena. So our ordinance is enforceable at the county fairgrounds.
Okay.
And Robin, is the concern, from what I'm gathering, the concern is more so like the smoking of marijuana, where there's a smell, it spreads, versus an edible, which is.
Correct.
Right.
It was the smoking.
Okay.
The smoking was the greatest concern. And
Because I just don't think the edibles would be very, very difficult to enforce.
right, you'd be hard pressed
How do
to
you
tell.
tell? a
Right, it
gummy
looks like a
edible-
gummy bear. Not that I would personally know.
Well, not only that, but they would consume it at home, get a ride to the park, their campsite.
Right.
Never know, and technically they didn't break the rule, but they'd still have the same effects. But okay,
And this did happen, there was an incident this past weekend. It was reported to the fair board because there were some campers and they were right next to our tent situation that we have. And they were smoking with their vape pens pretty heavy, and it was, of course, blowing right at their camper, and they were super upset, so.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it. I love it.
Anything else?
Don't you have a medical condition that you can smoke marijuana to help this condition?
And actually this I actually am well versed on. So if they have a, like a pharmaceutical, like a medical condition where they're entitled to buy it, purchase it, use it, correct. They still are under the state law that they can't do it in public. So they can't stand on the corner and smoke marijuana freely just because they have a medical prescription. They still need to be, in their vehicle, in a building, in their home, to smoke it. That was a really good question.
Not a county building.
Right, not a county building.
No.
Don't do it at the grandstands, I guess, but
Okay, moving on.
thank you.
Closed session.
Closed session.
I've been missing a person.
Thank you, everyone.
Put a motion.
We need a motion to go.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. Oh, I
By Robin, support.
had to leave.
Support by Bill, go close. All those in favor, say aye. Yes, he had to go to the eye doctor.
Oh, no wonder he's like, let's get this going.
You got a big floaty right in the middle of his eye.
Excuse me.